we have to talk about the Nelk Boys having Benjamin Netanyahu on their podcast. For anyone who is unfamiliar with who the Nelk Boys are, they are, I think, two guys in their early to mid 30s, I think, who are a part of the right wing adjacent podcast sphere. They've been producing content for, I think, like 10 years or so. They started out as a prank channel and then like morphed into lifestyle content. These are the Happy Dad guys, the Full Send guys. They are very similarly to other podcasts in this field. They try to posture as apolitical, as unbiased, which is just untrue. It doesn't matter how unbiased you appear to be. You do have biases, implicit biases, one way or another. The appeal of these kinds of podcasts, I guess, is the the exchange of information on both sides, the constant both sidesism that occurs. Now, the disclaimer I think for this is that I don't inherently have an issue with these kinds of podcasts existing. This extends to like Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz as well. People who try to posture as apolitical, talking about current events and political affairs doesn't bother me. I may disagree with their viewpoints, but I understand that in some instances they come to those conclusions by way of ignorance or just flat out misinformation. I don't believe that they are as malicious as somebody like Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes, who arrives at these same positions by way of just white supremacy and neo Nazism. Comedians, someone like Theo Von or Andrew Schultz, they are just as susceptible to propaganda as any other normal person is, which then leads them to these views. The issue with Benjamin Netanyahu going on the Full Send podcast is that these two guys are they ill-equipped does not even begin to describe their lack of knowledge on this interview. I have more of an issue with them talking about a subject that they know nothing about while sitting across from modern day Hitler. That was my issue with this. There is absolutely no reason for these guys to be talking about the Prime Minister of Israel, who is currently conducting a genocide with the backing, both the military and the financial backing of the United States. And this is an issue because they are not capable of dealing with the weaseling and the sidestepping that all of these politicians participate in. When they had Donald Trump on the podcast, like, they like Trump, so there was no reason for there to be a contentious interview. When you're talking to an outwardly evil figure like Benjamin Netanyahu, there needs to be an appropriate level of contention that matches the actions that him and Israel have been doing in Gaza. This goes for any outwardly evil figure throughout the course of history. It doesn't matter if it's Netanyahu, George Bush, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Osama bin Laden, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin. The issue isn't in having a conversation with these people as long as the individual on the other side is capable of refuting all of the bullshit that is thrust upon them and thrust upon the audience. Steiny said in the beginning of this interview that they are not journalists, or he said something to this effect that, like, we don't know what we're talking about. We're not qualified to have this conversation. If you're not qualified to have this conversation and you understand that, why have this conversation? I'm not going to have a fucking conversation with Andrew Huberman about neuroscience because I'm not a fucking doctor. I don't have a PhD. I'm not going to go and talk boxing with Deontay Wilder because I don't understand that. I don't want to be out of my depth. It is for that specific reason, however, that Bibi Netanyahu and his team reached out to these guys. Netanyahu and Israel are becoming increasingly unpopular. So much so that it is a political liability not only for them in their home country, but for Western countries that have aligned themselves with Israel. We've seen this all throughout Europe. There have been more and more subtle condemnations, at least by some countries. Others have been more outspoken in their criticism. I think of a country like Ireland, for example. It is no longer politically advantageous to support genocide. It is no longer politically advantageous to align yourself with the country that is massacring innocent women and children. Netanyahu is trying to whitewash this. He's trying to push this propaganda onto an audience that I guess he believed was impressionable, that would fall for his BS, that floundered. On Twitter, on YouTube, the Nelk Boys are getting their fucking asses eaten. Their audience is like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? This guy is the devil. This guy is starving children. Why are you giving him a softball interview? In the aftermath of this conversation, the Nelk Boys, they had another conversation with Hassan Piker and later on Adam Friedland, host of the Adam Friedland show, and the Nelk Boys kept trying to reinforce this opinion. Like Steiny said multiple times, Hassan, you're missing the point. Hassan, you're missing the point. It's not that Hassan or Adam was missing the point. It's that that point is fucking stupid. You cannot try to overshadow your actions with this guise of, oh, I'm just a guy. Like, I'm just a guy having a conversation. When you're talking about historic atrocities, that does not fucking fly. Like, when you're talking about shotgunning beers and tits and dicks, yeah, you can have that conversation. This is real world shit. People are dying. There are generations of children that are left with enduring trauma because of the actions of this genocidal government. Your response to this interview needs to reach that level. If you're not a journalist, or you don't believe that you have the journalistic capacity to engage in this conversation, don't fucking do it. Not everything has to be content. Not everything has to be a podcast episode. You can bring on some like bullshit freak off Instagram and talk with them instead of Benjamin Netanyahu. There are a few clips that they posted on their Twitter page. It's not the whole episode. I'm not going to watch the whole fucking episode here for you guys. We would be here for 6 fucking hours, and I don't want to do that. Although, maybe listen, I would consider reacting to the entirety of the podcast episode if there's a market for that, but I don't believe there's going to be one. However, again, I'm open to that. I did catch bits and pieces of this podcast, but all of the shit that Netanyahu has said throughout this episode, he's been saying for the last 2 years at least. Quite possibly the most ridiculous part of this interview, and one that the Nelk Boys didn't recognize the severity of, was and I thought they posted it on their Twitter page. It was the comparison of Burger King to McDonald's. The attempt to humanize this genocidal freakazoid. In fact, I'm going to try and find that. This is it. Perfect. No, this was the point where everyone watching this interview checked out. Again, read the room, guys. You are currently sitting across from a man who in the last almost 2 years has murdered anywhere from 50,000 to 250,000 Palestinians, potentially even more, depending on which estimate you read from, whether it's from Amnesty International, whether it's from the Hamas Health Ministry, whether it's from the Citadel, who posted a study a couple weeks ago that we covered on this show. This is an atrocity of colossal proportions. Children are being sniped intentionally by IDF soldiers. And you guys, I'm not going to try to, be mean to them, but like you look like buffoons asking this fucking question.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No.
Who gives a fuck, man? Who gives a fuck? Who cares? And I think they did try to like clarify this later on, that it just like came up naturally in conversation. Don't care. Don't buy it. I'm sitting across from Hitler. I'm not asking Hitler his thoughts on Chick-fil-A. That's fucking stupid. There are concentration camps and indiscriminate killings of an entire population, and you're asking this fucking buffoon, this goblin, this ghoul, this demon, about his fucking fast food preferences.
I'll tell you, Burger King, we did the double,
Whopper?
the double.
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long time.
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No,
The
you're wrong.
BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
No, that was fine. I mean, I like Burger King. The answer is yes.
What's your go-to?
I think McDonald's is on the BDS list. Don't quote me on that, because I could be very much wrong on that. This is like fucking excusable. This is friendly banter with a genocide committer. Friendly banter with a genocide committer. They did touch on some like actual issues of what's going on in Gaza, all of which, everything that came out of Benjamin Netanyahu's mouth is a fucking lie. And to that point, which is obviously something that Hassan brought up in their conversation afterwards, they kind of just brushed aside and were like, we hear something from him, and then we hear something from you, Hassan, and then we read stuff in the news, and we really don't know what to believe. That's also bullshit. It's called media literacy, guys. If there are multiple sources all saying the same thing, if you have 17 different sources, if you have every international human rights group saying one thing, and the leader of Israel saying the other, who are you going to believe? You're going to just believe the one fucking source? That's stupid. That's stupid. This is Benjamin Netanyahu on allegations of starving people in Gaza. These first off, this is, oh my God, it's even worse. It's even worse seeing it the second and third time. There are no allegations, man. This is all documented. People are fucking dying because of the food blockade that has been created by Israel and by Benjamin Netanyahu.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Because they are. Because they are. Because they are. Why did the meteorologist say that it was raining? Because it was fucking raining. It's happening. You can see it with your two eyes. Open your goddamn computer. Open your phone. Like, you will see a picture of a malnourished child who's fucking dying on a hospital bed. This is like, we're not trying to look at the molecular composition of my fucking desk.
Food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in? Hamas steals the food, takes the good chunk for itself, then they jack up the prices, and then they sell the food to its population, to its hungry population, if they give them at all, and then use the money that they take from their own people to recruit more killers into their terror machine.
All right, there's three things that are wrong about this. The first, every fucking human rights group has come to the conclusion that there is insufficient aid being pumped into Gaza, and that there has been insufficient aid being pumped through Gaza. Even the GHF, the CIA-backed, Israel-approved Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, when they came out with their initial estimates, they would not have been able to feed all of the citizens of Gaza multiple meals a day for the first week that they were there. Even when Joe Biden was the fucking president, his administration learned that Israel was allowing, I forget the specifics, pardon me, but they were supposed to allow like 50 aid trucks into Gaza per day, and they were only allowing 13. The Biden administration uncovered that. And do you know what Joe Biden did? He gave him like $8 billion the next fucking day. Second, oh, Hamas is stealing the food. Hamas is stealing the food. Hamas is comprised entirely of Palestinians, the oppressed group that is being subjected to this malnourishment, to this food blockade. They aren't a third-party paramilitary that's been dropped in from fucking Estonia. They are armed resistance fighters who are pushing back against the colonial oppressor that has subjugated their families for nearly 60 years. Thirdly, Hamas, I believe me, BB, Hamas does not have to pay anybody to join their ranks. You have children who all they know is their family members being killed by Israel, is their home being killed by Israel, is their school being bombed by Israel. This is terrorism 101. You cannot defeat insurgency with arms. You will only continue to inspire more young people to join that group. That is why Antony Blinken, on his way out the door in January, said that Hamas still had close to the original 20,000 fighters that they had on October 7th. It is because you are wantonly slaughtering these people's families. The next clip, Benjamin Netanyahu on getting hate worldwide. I don't understand why these people hate me. I am merely he sounds a lot like Bernie Sanders. It sounds a lot like Bernie Sanders when I do that. I don't know why all these people hate me. They make it seem like I'm this freak. All I've done is kill 100,000 children in almost 2 years.
I think you definitely have a tough job, but why do you think you're like so hated worldwide?
Well, a lot of propaganda. The Chancellor of Germany said Israel did the work for all of us. The new Chancellor of Germany, okay? Because those Iranian missiles were geared at Europe too, and ultimately at America. The question you have to ask is not why do they hate me or President Trump, is why don't they see reality? Why don't they see what's good for them? And the answer is most of them do if you tell them the facts. But how do you tell them the facts over TikTok?
I don't think it's the Iran thing. The main thing I just see is if I don't think people like if civilians are getting injured or killed.
We don't want it either.
Yeah, I don't fucking believe that. Like, again, there is the IDF trains their snipers to shoot at fucking children. Like, what? I don't even know what percentage of the casualties anymore are innocent people. It's like between 80 and 90, right? So just like stop killing civilians. Stop breaching these ceasefires. Although, if we're looking at the situation objectively, why would the world hate Benjamin Netanyahu? Well, again, I've mentioned this like 3 times already. Anywhere from 50 to 250,000 Palestinians have been killed by this man and his genocidal regime. There is an aid embargo. There was a food blockade that persisted for many months. Anywhere from like 75 to 80% of Gaza's infrastructure has been completely eradicated. It will take like hundreds of years to rebuild Gaza to the GDP levels that they had in 2022, I think it was. They've had infrastructure destroyed. They've had ports destroyed, water treatment plants destroyed. They've been without electricity for, I don't fucking know, like a year at this point. Why? Like, this is what is so frustrating about this situation. And this is why it's annoying that these 2 goobers took this fucking interview, because I'm not even in authority on the history between Israel and Palestine. I've become more educated in recent years on this specific topic, but everything that this dipshit says is so easily refuted. If you pay any modicum of attention to current affairs, you should be able to bring this up. This is what frustrates me when you have people who try to posture as apolitical, because you're not doing anything here. This doesn't serve anybody. Your audience already probably hates this fucking guy, and now they're going to turn on you for this softball ass interview. Again, it's not the discussion of certain ideas that bother me. I could give a fuck about that. I'm not here to be the thought police. You can have whatever debates you want. But when you're sitting down with a world leader, when you are sitting down with someone who is going to go down in history as an objectively evil person, quite possibly the most despicable person of the 21st century, you need to bring an urgency to that conversation. You have to talk about this you have to talk about this with the appropriate severity.
After President
This is Benjamin Netanyahu on the current state of the Iran war.
Is the war with Iran, is it over now? After President Trump did authorize the strike and they destroyed the nuclear program?
You know, we were like a person with 2 lumps of cancer that threatened our life. The first one's the nuclear cancer. The other threat that we had, another lump of cancer, was these ballistic missiles. So we had to act. We did act. And just with incredibly brave soldiers.
But is there a chance of peace with this current regime?
Not
The
with the
nuclear,
regime.
this is so tired, dude. How have you not seen the meme where Israel has been talking about Iran having a nuke for 30 years? Iran has been in the process of getting a nuclear weapon longer than I've been on this goddamn planet. By not 1, not 2, but 3 years, I think. When did Israel first begin this bullshit? 1993? You're telling me 32, soon to be 33 years later, they're still on the cusp of having a nuclear weapon? This is what I mean. No pushback, not even a follow-up. They are literally just letting this fucking demon talk.
But with the Iranian people.
That'd be nice, because I think one thing Americans don't want to see is everyone has post-traumatic stress from, trying to do regime change in Iraq and the past Middle Eastern wars. Is the war with Iran, is it over now? After President Trump?
And then the last clip that they posted with the on them on the set was Benjamin Netanyahu on October 7th.
There's still a lot of gray area, like with your average American, on what actually happened on October 7th, how it happened, why the response took so long.
What happened was that at 6:29 in the morning, several thousand of these Hamas murderers crossed the fence from Gaza into the neighboring communities.
Why is there a fence? Why is there a fence for them to cross? Why? Oh, that's right. Because this is a fucking apartheid state where the Palestinians exist in an open air prison. Like, hello, earth to either of these dipshits. Like, how are you this is like, the uneducated does not even begin to describe the situation here. Like, we'll just let the clip play.
And butchered everything in sight. And the other thing that they did was there was a music festival that lasted through the night in the open areas, near Gaza. Young people. And these killers came there and they just sprayed the whole place. They murdered these young women and young men.
Yeah.
And then, how long did it take to get in there? We're still investigating why it took so long.
What's your response to people that say it could have been prevented?
I agree with them.
There's still a lot of
inappropriate follow-up to this, regardless of whether you believe October 7th is a tragedy or not, because there are people who sit on that side, on both sides of that fence. 1,200 people died. I understand that. Many of them innocents. I don't condone the slaughter of innocents. I don't condone the killing of civilians. But how come Israel is allowed to do an October 7th almost every fucking day for the following 18 months? Why could neither of them ask this question? It's like, we understand that 1,200 innocent Israelis died, and it's a tragedy. But you have killed, like, anywhere from, I don't know, 8 to 10 times that many people. So why is it okay when you do it? Why do you get a pass? This is how you handle this kind of conversation. But of course, Benjamin Netanyahu would not have this conversation with literally anyone who engages in this kind of discussion. He would not sit down for an interview unless he knew it would be a softball interview. He wouldn't sit, even if it's like, well, I mean, the mainstream news networks are basically all in alignment here, but he would never go onto like a left-wing podcast and talk with someone for obvious reasons, both ideological reasons and intellectual reasons as well. Even someone like me, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a dumbass. I acknowledge that. But even I'm able to bring a level of contention to this conversation that would at least make it look like I'm attempting to be combative, because I would be. I'm sitting down, again, across from Hitler. I don't want it to appear that we are friendly at all. This is like work. And I'm going to do everything in my power to argue in favor of morality and justice. So in the aftermath, these two did a post. They did a recap on their stream. This was when they did sit down with Hassan. Hassan is not in any of these clips because I guess that these two, they were kind of just explaining themselves, and it did not go well. We will dive into the comments underneath the YouTube video in a little bit. This clip is Kyle on the purpose of the Full Send podcast.
On the Full Send podcast, what we do and what our style is we will have the most controversial people on this fucking planet on the podcast. Hate it or love it. That's the way it's always been, all right? We've had Trump on in 2020 when it was fucking crazy. We've had O.J. Simpson on. We've had Andrew Tate on. And that's just our style, all right? Other podcasts can do whatever.
This is what Content Brain does to you. You don't need to have all these people on. And isn't it kind of interesting that all of these controversial figures are always on the right side of the political spectrum? They're always right wing. Like, where's the controversial left wing? Where are the controversial left wing? Guess I do know that they have. Well, I don't know if it was on Full Send. Part of me, I'm not like up to date with the lore, but I do know that Steiny had Hassan Piker on one of the shows. But like, what about Zoran Mamdani? Like, why don't you talk to, I don't know, why don't you talk to like fucking Sam Cedar or somebody? It's because that shit does not sell. Left-wing media simply does not sell. It does not sell anywhere near right-wing media.
Whatever they want. But guys, on the Full Send podcast, if we get the opportunity to have someone crazy controversial on, we're going to take it. Because what I think the purpose of the Full Send podcast is we have controversial people on. We ask them questions. Obviously, we're not the best fucking journalists. We're not claiming to be fucking Piers Morgan or fucking Brett Baer. But we're going to ask them questions. They're going to give answers. And guys, this is the point of the podcast. We leave it up to you guys as the viewer to form your own intelligent opinion.
This is total bullshit. This is a cop-out. Straight up. Asking them a question and having them respond is not good enough. If you want your audience to be able to form a well-rounded opinion on a certain topic, you have to be able to articulate counterpoints against this topic, so that way your audience is able to intellectualize both sides of the argument. We're like, I'm just having we're just asking questions. That shit's not good enough. You're a podcast host, man. You talk for a living. You mean to tell me that you can't engage in a back and forth with somebody? Like, you can, just like fucking I'm I'm really struggling to get through this sentence. There are better back and forths at Thanksgiving dinner or at Christmas. And this is like, I hate this fucking cop out, because there is a way for you to have this type of brand and still like actually appear as an unbiased observer. I think that Theo Vaughn does this better than most. He, much like these guys, will sit down with people from all walks of life. But Theo at least appears to be like a genuinely inquisitive person. He's someone who does enjoy asking questions because he does understand that he's not so well versed on these things. So when he sits down with JD Vance or when he sits down with Bernie Sanders, yes, he'll ask them a question. They'll respond with some talking point, and then Theo will be like, oh, well, people have said this, that, and whatever, or, I've seen online this, that, and whatever. That is an actually engaging conversation. Asking Benjamin Netanyahu, what do you have to say about starving kids in Gaza? And then him responding to you, and then you going to the next fucking question doesn't do anything. It's not about being a journalist or not. It's about having a baseline level of understanding about certain issues. This is the last clip that we're going to cover from them. The Nelk Boys will be giving the other side the opportunity to speak on the next episode.
But
now we're gonna
guys,
give the other side an opportunity.
We're gonna give the other side the opportunity, and I feel like that's just the way we roll, bro. And I think that someone has to do it, and if we have to take the fall and be the bad guys for having the controversial people on, I think we're willing to do it.
100%.
But
now we're gonna.
But also, to label Benjamin Netanyahu controversial is really underselling his impacts on history. He is genuinely evil. He is a despicable human being. Andrew Tate was controversial when he was first coming up, before he was actually a fucking criminal. That's controversial. Saying edgy things just for the sake of engagement is controversial. Benjamin Netanyahu is doing a fucking genocide. This guy is detestable. He is grotesque. He is immoral. Now, when they say the other side, this is really interesting because who are they going to bring on? I wonder. I'm not I don't even know who the fuck they could bring on. Honestly, their best intention would be to find like a prominent content creator who lives in Gaza and try to patch them into the podcast over Discord or something, but I don't even know if that's like technologically possible right now, and just allow that individual to highlight the horrors that Israel has committed upon them and their family. When this interview was going on, or more specifically when they were talking with Hassan afterwards, they kept saying that the other side was Hamas. Now, Hamas is designated as a terrorist group. I don't think you would be able to actually talk to a member of Hamas. The State Department would not allow it, but that in and of itself highlights how they conceptualize this genocide. They don't see the Palestinian people as being genocided. They see Hamas engaging in an active conflict with Israel, which is all because of the Western media propaganda. You can't both sides a genocide. It's that simple. You have the one side committing the genocide, which is Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, and you have the other side who's actively being genocided, that being the Palestinians. We're going to bounce on over to the YouTube channel just so I can show you guys that the fan base is not fucking with this. I wish that YouTube still had dislikes. I wish they did, even though, some of my videos don't have the best like to dislike ratio. I don't really give a fuck about all that. Because there are instances where that is legitimately useful. Like this video is currently sitting at 29,000 likes and just shy of 1.1 million views. Currently, there are 19,765 comments. Just based off of that engagement ratio alone, just 29,000 likes to 19,000 comments. The Nelk Boys fandom is not really taking this in stride. In fact, one of the top comments with 22,000 likes says, unsubscribed. Nick Strength and Power. This was pitched to Netanyahu like this, quote, don't worry, these guys are idiots. You can use their platform to push whatever propaganda you want, and they probably won't push back on anything. I guarantee that is exactly what happened. They described it, the Nelk Boys did, as they were able to get in contact with Netanyahu's communications team by way of the Trump administration's communication team. As we know, they gave Trump, a pretty softball interview because they like Trump. They like his vibes. He thinks he's cool. He's fun. He's got aura, swag, whatever the fuck the kids are saying these days. In Gaza, kids are dying from hunger and bombs, but here the priority is what sauce Netanyahu likes on his burger. History won't forget about this level of detachment. You guys didn't question him once. This is crazy. Israel are so desperate for positive PR that they sent their prime minister to do a podcast with a bunch of pranksters. We are not qualified for this. We should not be doing this. Maybe listen to yourself next time. That is the biggest takeaway from here. You don't always have to talk on certain topics, especially if you are not knowledgeable about said topics. There are subjects that I don't breach on this show because I'm not qualified to speak on them. I don't really talk about a lot of foreign policy on this show because I'm not really I'm not the best foreign policy analyst. I am much stronger when it comes to domestic issues and more specifically domestic economic issues. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn. I've educated myself on the history of Israel and Palestine. I've come to understand how we reached this point and how this point is not too dissimilar to everything that has preceded these past 58, 60 years. Zero pushback. You literally just let a war criminal talk freely for an hour to millions of fans. Just horrible, horrible. You guys are truly. He used these guys because he knew they were in over their heads. Just another evil, pathetic tactic by our greatest ally. This just goes on and on and on. The fact that Netanyahu is doing a podcast with the Nelk Boys while Gaza is still under rubble says everything you need to know about 2025. If you tolerate anything, you stand for nothing. Bro will literally interview Netanyahu and say, I'm not educated about the issue. So blatantly obvious this war criminal came onto your guys' pod because he was under the impression, quote, these guys are idiots and this is a perfect opportunity to spew propaganda at their dumb audience. And you guys bent over and allowed it to happen. No pushback, no nothing. Questionable. I like this comment a lot because your audience is smarter than you think. My audience, the little audience that I have, I would never underestimate their intelligence. I would never think that they are so stupid that I would be able to have a fucking war criminal on and not get my ass blasted for it. That's another wrinkle in this. You guys have just like you're out of touch with your audience, I believe. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning. Popularity for Israel is in the shitter. The approval rate of Israel is in the shitter. People do not like seeing pictures of dead children on their fucking Twitter feeds. And you're bringing the child killer onto your fucking show and allowing him to just read off his talking points.